Franklin's a really cool guy. In fact, he's one of my favorite writers, authors, inventors, and scientists. He lived during the colonial era, and he signed the Declaration of Independence and helped draft the U.S. Constitution. This book's about Ben Franklin. It's titled How Ben Franklin Stole the Lightning, and it's written by Rosalind Shanzer.
I, why, none other than Benjamin Franklin, poet, author, inventor, postmaster general, and diplomat. No thank you. I do not want any of your turkey sandwich. You see, I'm a vegetarian. I really don't like the taste of meat, and besides, it saves me money for books, which are much, much more important than eating meat. I was born January 17th, 1706, to Josiah and Abiah Franklin. As a young boy, I was a printer's apprentice to my brother. I really didn't like that job. I preferred poetry, writing, and reading.
Sometimes in books, authors include a dedication, the person that they're dedicating the book to. But in this case, the author simply decided to include a quote from Benjamin Franklin. And it says, "We are, I think, in the right road of improvement, for we are making experiments." Benjamin Franklin did a lot of experimenting, and some of his experiments involved lightning, which is why the author chose to include this little lightning bolt here in Ben Franklin's The great hand. Benjamin Franklin really did steal lightning right out of the sky. And then he set out to tame the beast. It goes to figure, though, because he was a man who could do just about anything. Why, Ben Franklin could swim faster, argue better, and write funnier stories than practically anyone in colonial America. He was a musician, a printer, a cartoonist, and a world traveler. What's more, he was a newspaper owner, a shoe keeper, a soldier, and a politician. He even helped to write the Declaration of Independence, and always coming up with newfangled ways to help folks out, too. He was the guy who started the first lending library in America. His post office was the first to deliver mail straight to people's houses. He also wrote almanacs that gave hilarious advice about life and told people when to plant crops, whether there might be an eclipse, and when the tides would be high or low. And he started a hospital, a free academy, and a fire department. In colonial days, fire could break out at any time, and it was lightning that caused some of the worst fires. Many people believed that being struck by lightning was punishment from God. Whenever thunderstorms were brewing, they would ring the church bells for all they were worth, but it didn't do anybody a lick of good. Of course, after Ben stole the lightning, there weren't nearly as many fires for firefighters to put out. Now, why was that, I hear you ask? And how did he steal any lightning in the first place? Well, it's a long story, but before we get the answer, here's a hint. One of the things Benjamin Franklin liked to do best was to make inventions. Why, Ben was a born inventor. He loved to swim fast, but he wanted to go even faster. So one day when he was a mere lad of 11, he got some wood and invented swim paddles for his hands and feet. Ben could go faster all right, but the wood was pretty heavy, and his wrists would get plumb worn out. That's why his second invention was a better way to go faster. He lay on his back, held onto a kite string, and let his kite pull him lickety-split across the pond. You might want to remember later on that Ben always did like kites. Ben kept right on inventing better ways to do things for the rest of his life. Take books, for example. Ben read so many books that some of them sat on shelves way up high near the ceiling. So he invented the library chair. If he pulled up the seat, out popped some stairs to help him reach any books on high shelves. And in case climbing stairs might make him dizzy, he invented a long wooden arm that could grab his books too. also invented an odometer that told how far he had ridden to deliver the mail, and the first clock with a second hand, and he even thought up daylight savings time. Then he invented bifocals, so older folks could see both far and near without changing glasses. With these bifocals, I can see what I'm eating and still talk to the people on the other side of the table. Everybody and his brother and sister just had to find better ways to heat their homes. So Ben came up with a Franklin stove that could warm up cold rooms faster and use a lot less wood than old-fashioned stoves and fireplaces.
The Franklin stove, you ask? Well, it's right here. It's different from other stoves of my era because it has a lever in the back which you close, and it keeps the cold air from coming into the house and allows the stove to more efficiently heat the room, which is a big improvement if I do say so myself. Oh, dirty thing. But it was a great
musician. People all over Europe and America loved his glass harmonica. This instrument could spin wet glass bowls to make music that sounded like it came straight from heaven. Mozart and Beethoven wrote music for it, and it was even played at a royal Italian wedding. But as popular as warm stoves and glass harmonicas were, they aren't anywhere near as celebrated as the invention Ben made when he stole the lightning. Another hint about Ben's most famous invention is that it helped make life easier for everyone. His scientific ideas were helpful too, and were often way ahead of their time. For example, he had a lot of ideas about health. He said that exercise and weightlifting would keep people fit, but they have to work hard enough to sweat if they want to do any good. He wrote that breathing fresh air, drinking lots of water, and an apple a day that keeps the doctor away is very good for you. And before people ever heard of vitamin C, he wrote that oranges, limes, and grapefruit give people healthy gums and skin. Sailors soon got wind of his idea. They began eating so many limes to stop getting sick from scurvy at sea that they became known as limeys. Didn't the man ever stop to rest? Even when he was outside, Ben kept right on experimenting. For instance, he often sailed to England and France to do business for America. As he crossed the Atlantic Ocean, he charted the Gulf Stream by taking its temperature. Once sailors knew the route of this fast, warm river in the cold ocean, they could travel between America and Europe in a shorter time than ever before. He was probably the first person to write weather forecasts, too. Once he chased a roaring whirlwind by riding over the hills of Maryland just to find out how it worked. Ben really liked science. He had an old scientific trick that he liked to show people every chance he got. He used to store oil inside a bamboo walking stick, and whenever he poured a few drops of oil into the angry waves of a lake or pond, they became smooth as glass. Meanwhile, over in Europe, people called electricians had started doing some tricks of their own. One trick was to raise a boy up near the ceiling with a bunch of silk cords, rub his feet with a glass electric tube, and make sparks shoot out of his hands and face. Another mean trick made the King of France laugh so hard he could hardly stop. His court electrician had run an electrical charge through 180 soldiers of the guard, and they jerked to attention faster than they had ever done in their entire lives. Doing all these tricks gave Ben his idea for stealing lightning out of the sky. You see, Ben did not agree that being struck by lightning was a punishment for evil deeds. He believed that lightning was nothing more or less than pure electricity. Now he set out to prove it. First he made a silk kite with a wire on top to attract the lightning. Next he added a kite string tied to a key at the bottom and a silk ribbon below the key. Ben and his son William stood out of the rain inside the doorway of a shed on the side of a field. That was to keep from being shocked. Ben held onto the dry silk ribbon and flew his kite straight up toward a big rain cloud. For the longest time, nothing happened. Just as Ben and William were about to give up, the hair on that wet kite string began to rise up and stand at attention. Ben put his knuckle near the key, and yikes! Out jumped a bright spark of genuine electricity. Real lightning had traveled all the way down that kite string. Ben had stolen electric fire right out of the heavens and proved that he was right. Of course, now we know that if the storm had been any stronger, the great inventor would have been toast. Finally, here's the part of the story where Ben's practice from thinking up all those inventions came in so handy. Way back then, you remember, lightning was always setting fire to ships, houses, and church spires. Even the best fire departments couldn't keep entire towns from going up in smoke. So Ben decided to make his most famous invention of all, the lightning rod. The whole idea was to pull lightning safely out of the sky before it could do any mischief. Ben showed people how to put a pointed iron rod on the tippy top of a roof or a ship's mast and connect it to a wire leading all the way down the ground or into the water. Now the lightning could follow a safe path without burning up a thing.
When did I discover electricity? Well, that was 1751. I took this little kite and I attached a key to it and I sent it up into the lightning storm. And the lightning struck the key and voila! Proved electricity existed. I believe a great many inventions will come from my discovery of electricity. In fact, one of my own inventions, the lightning rod, came from that discovery. You stick the lightning rod on top of your house and lightning strikes the rod and acts as a ground. Thus, your house does not catch on fire.
This simple but brilliant invention worked beautifully. It saved more lives than anyone can count and made Ben Franklin a great hero. Scientists from around the world lined up to give Ben medals and awards. But during his long life, he became much more than a master of lightning. Why, when America fought against Great Britain for the right to become a free nation, Ben convinced France to come help win the war. And when it was over, he convinced Great Britain to sign the peace. He had helped in so many ways that people of France honored him with a beautiful medallion. It says, "He snatched the lightning from heaven and the scepter from the tyrants." And he did.
Oh my, you're right. It is getting late. Mr. Franklin, sorry for having kept you. I like to rattle on. You have a nice, safe journey back to the future. Remember, you can find me and many other great men and women right here in your history book.